People. As I write these characters, I have to look a second time to make sure I have them right. That's the thing about this word. It feels remote, but it's so familiar, too. I can't think of another expression in the modern Chinese language that is such an anomaly, ubiquitous yet somehow invisible. In China today, it's only officials who have the people on their lips every time they open their mouths, for the people themselves seldom use the term. Perhaps they hardly recall its existence. We have to give those voluble officials some credit, for we rely on them to demonstrate that the phrase still has some currency. In the past, this was such a weighty phrase. Our country was called the People's Republic of China. Chairman Mao told us to serve the people. The most important paper was the People's Daily. Since 1949, the people are the masters, we learned to say. In my childhood years, the people was just as marvelous an expression as Chairman Mao, and when I first began to read, these were the first words I mastered. I could write them even before I could write my own name or the names of my parents. It was my view then that the people are Chairman Mao, and Chairman Mao is the people. That was during the Cultural Revolution, and I marched about proudly sharing this insight with everyone I met. They responded with dubious looks, apparently finding something problematic about my formulation, although nobody directly contradicted me. In those days, people walked on eggshells, fearful that if they said anything wrong, they might be branded a counter-revolutionary, endangering their whole family. My parents, hearing of my discovery, looked equally doubtful. They eyed me warily and told me in a roundabout way that they couldn't see anything wrong with what I'd said, but I still had better not say it again. But since this was my greatest childhood insight, I couldn't bear to hush it up, and continued sharing it with the world at large. One day I found supporting evidence in a popular saying of the time, "Chairman Mao lives in our hearts." I took this to its logical conclusion. Chairman Mao lives in everyone's heart, so what lives in Chairman Mao's heart? It has to be the entire people. Therefore, the people are Chairman Mao, and Chairman Mao is the people. Those doubtful looks among the residents of my little town gradually dissipated. Some people began nodding in approval, and others began to say the same thing, my little playmates first, and then grown-ups too. But I felt threatened when lots of people started saying, the people are Chairman Mao, and Chairman Mao is the people. In a revolutionary era, one cannot claim a patent for anything, and I found my status as inventor was being steadily eroded. I was the first one to say that, I would declare, but no adults set any store by my claim of authorship, and in the end, even my young companions refused to accept that I deserved credit. Faced with my strenuous arguments or pathetic pleas, they would shake their heads. "Now, everybody says that." I was upset, regretting bitterly that I had made my discovery public. I should have stored it forever in my own mind, safe from anybody else, keeping it for myself to savor my whole life through. These days the West is astonished by the speed of China's makeover. With the flick of a wrist, Chinese history has utterly changed its complexion, much the way an actor in a Sichuan opera swaps one mask for another. In the short space of 30 years, a China ruled by politics has transformed itself into a China where money is king. Turning points in history tend to be marked by some emblematic event, and the Tiananmen incident of 1989 was one such moment. Stirred by the death that April of the reform-minded Hu Yaobang, college students in Beijing poured out of their campuses to gather in Tiananmen Square, demanding democratic freedoms and denouncing official corruption. Because of the hard line the government took in refusing to engage in a dialogue, in mid-May the students began a hunger strike in the square, and the locals marched in the streets to support them. Beijing residents were actually not so interested in democratic freedoms. It was the attacks on profiteering by officials that drew them into the movement in such huge numbers. At that time, Deng Xiaoping's open-door policy had entered its 11th year, and although the reforms had triggered price increases, the economy was growing steadily and the standard of living was rising.